Welcome back to more Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. Last time we went through a few stages in Extra Mode, so this time we're going to go over the subgames. Before we get started with that, I wanted to highlight a few things here, starting with the sound test. As a reminder, this is unlocked by clearing Extra Mode in Kirby's Adventure, but is unlocked by default in Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. Here you can listen to all of the music and even the sound effects in the game. Next up, I wanted to talk about the completion percentage. Below the completion percentage, there's a title. This title updates every time you clear 10% of the main game. The initial title is Water Drop, and you can work your way up to the title of Hero of Lore through the main game. There is also an additional title of Superstar that is obtained by completing Extra Mode, so we do have all of the titles and we have gotten 100%. So with that out of the way, let's try out the subgames. We're starting out with Quick Draw. Ready, set, draw. When you see the exclamation point, quickly press A. If you've played Kirby Superstar, this should be very familiar. This is basically Samurai Kirby from that game. And like in Samurai Kirby, this is a reflex test. As soon as the icon appears, you have to press A as quickly as possible and try to defeat all 5 opponents. I am really terrible at this though. I chose the lowest difficulty of level 1 out of 3, and I guarantee I am not getting past the 4th opponent, King Dedede. Yep, we lost. The 5th opponent is Meta Knight, and yeah, I've never actually completed this mode, because my reflexes are not that great. Next up is Bomb Rally. Swing your paddle, hit the bomb. Press A to hit the bomb. By comparison, I actually like Bomb Rally a lot more. This is basically another timing minigame. We have to keep rallying this bomb towards the other Kirbys, but there is a bit of randomness. You saw there that the bomb kept going between 2 Kirbys, and I'm pretty sure that's random. I don't think there's a way to control where the bomb goes, which does make this a bit tricky and luck-based, because there are times where you might not get the bomb hardly at all, which definitely makes things a lot easier. As is, this is pretty intense. Especially in the final round and on the higher difficulties where the bomb really starts to speed up. Like there, we basically didn't get the bomb towards the end of that round, so we easily won. And finally, for the original set of subgames, is Kirby's Air Grind. Join the rail battle in the skies. Press A to grind the rails. You can't grind black rails. Of the 3 subgames, this is probably my favorite. That's why I chose level 3 for this, because I'm feeling confident enough in my skill in this subgame to actually be able to get through on the highest difficulty. We have to hold A and then release it before hitting the spikes, and then quickly hold A again after passing the spikes to get a speed boost. If we do run into the spikes, we will slow down, but overall this isn't too difficult. Compared to the somewhat random element of Bomb Rally and the very precise timing element of Quick Draw, this feels a little bit more skill-based to me, and that's why I generally prefer this one. And I remember playing this a lot when I first played the game. I had a lot of fun going through this mode, and we very easily won. Yellow Kirby was right behind us, but we still won by a significant margin. And the other 2 are finally crossing the finish line there. Yeah, we were a whole 4 seconds ahead of Yellow Kirby. You also have a rate, basically saying how well you did. I definitely ran into a lot of spikes, so I'm not entirely surprised by that. Next up is the first of 2 unlockable subgames, Boss Endurance. Fight the bosses and beat them. Boss Endurance. The bosses are back. Kirby must face all 8 bosses one at a time. Why? Who are you fighting for? Oh, Kirby, what will you do? This is a boss rush of all the main bosses. This is kind of like a predecessor to the arena in other Kirby games, but is honestly a lot tougher because we don't have any breaks and we don't get any healing. We also don't get any copy abilities, so we have to go in without any powers, so we actually do have to fight Wispy this time instead of simply breezing through the fight. So yeah, we're thrown straight into the next fight with Paint Roller. Trying to fight Paint Roller without an ability isn't great. This uses normal mode rules at least, so you do have 6 hit points instead of 3, making it a little bit easier than it could have been. Because our only way of getting abilities is through certain bosses like this, I might actually stall for a bit and try to get a power-up I can use for later fights. I would really like to have Spark for the next fight. Wheel might work actually, but I'll wait for Spark. This mode is available in both Kirby's Adventure and Nightmare Dreamland, by the way, so I'm pretty sure it's also unlocked the same way by simply clearing the main mode. And yeah, it is a nice challenge at the end of your adventure. This isn't required for any clear percentage though. As far as I know, there isn't any unlockable for this. So if you can't get through this, because it is actually a bit difficult, there really isn't any requirement to actually do this if you're concerned about 100%. Alright, so we're fighting Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright without a copy ability, so this is going to be very dangerous. We're at half health, by the way, so we're basically playing the entire rest of the boss set in extra mode. Which is not great. I don't think I'm going to get through this, with this much health left. Especially if I fly straight into the sun. This is probably one of the tougher bosses to fight without an ability, because it's very difficult to actually get stars. I feel like the other bosses are a lot easier in that regard, but this one is particularly difficult. I'll do my best to get past this fight, but I'm not making any promises. This might be the end of our run already. Alright, we took out Mr. Bright, and now all we have is Mr. Shine. Oh good, the stars are appearing right there, where I cannot reach them. Alright, so we have this little cutter move there. I wonder if we could actually inhale that. Oh, we have 1 hit point. Yeah, I think this is probably the end of the road, unfortunately. But I'll try to get through this fight in one piece. So yeah, we have to dodge the laser there. Missed all the stars again. So yeah, I'm really not used to this fight, clearly, and I'm definitely struggling a bit. The sun still having a hitbox also makes this a little bit tougher because we have to be very careful where we fly, instead of simply flying through the entire sky. We have to basically dodge the sun, so we have more to worry about than most areas like this, and most fights like this. And try to actually inhale the projectile there. I'm not sure if you even can, but it's worth a try. We somehow got through that, I am not sure how. But this is also a problem. With Kracko and Kracko Jr., we actually do have to get through this initial platforming sequence, and I've never been good at this, so this might be the end of the road for us, unless I can get through this in one piece with only 1 hit point. I'm also not sure if I can even get past the boss with 1 hit point, but I'll try. Also, don't fall, because that also will cause you to lose. You also only have 1 life for this, so it's very stressful. Even if you could get an ability at the beginning of this, that would make a huge difference. Basically having to go through everything without an ability until you can find one in a fight is what makes this more tricky than it normally would be, in my opinion. Alright, Kracko actually wasn't too bad. That was pretty straightforward, actually. So next up is Heavy Mole. I'm pretty sure we're going to lose to Meta Knight, but I might lose here if I'm not careful. Like, if I accidentally destroy too much of the floor and fall into a pit, we might lose here. I am not going to worry about Hammer, because if we're going to have to use Sword in the next fight, we might as well just stick with using stars. It's a bit slower this way, and this mode does track your completion time. I was actually... oh, that's bad. Well, that was an unexpected way to go out in that run. But yeah, there isn't any unlockable for getting through boss endurance. There is a completion screen, that's like a congratulations screen with your best time, but beyond that, there isn't any reward for clearing that. All of the sub-games we've seen so far can be played in multiplayer. The one icon next to the first 3 sub-games indicate that they can be played with 1 copy of the game. The M means you need multiple copies of the game. This applies to boss endurance, and also the main mode and extra mode can be played with multiple copies of the game. Sadly, the Wii U Virtual Console version does not have any multiplayer support, so if you wanted to play multiplayer, you would have to play on the original version with multiple Game Boys and copies of Nightmare in Dreamland, along with a link cable. So these sub-games are not all in Kirby's Adventure. So Boss Endurance is in, but the first 3 are actually different in Kirby's Adventure. Quick Draw is still technically in Kirby's Adventure, but instead of being Samurai Kirby, it's Western themed instead. Bomb Rally and Kirby's Air Grind are completely different. There's Crane Fever, which is basically a crane game, and there's Egg Catcher, which basically revolves around Kirby trying to catch eggs in his mouth and also trying to avoid eating bombs. So it is interesting that there are entirely different sub-games for the main mode. In the main mode, you can get lives by playing the first 3 sub-games in various stores you can find in different levels, and depending on how well you place, you'll get more lives. So with that out of the way, we have one more sub-game to go through, Meta Nightmare. Save Dreamland as Meta Knight. Meta Knight has set out to practice his sword play. Use his blade to clear the way. You can't save. Meta Nightmare is basically extra mode again, but with Meta Knight. This mode is honestly really cool and really interesting, and a cool reward for going through extra mode in Nightmare in Dreamland. So let's see what it's like. So, in extra mode, we only had 3 hit points, and that also applies to Meta Nightmare. We only have 3 hit points, but Meta Knight is a bit more versatile than Kirby. His sword actually has multiple different attacks. So for example, we have this little 2-hit combo. We also have an upwards stab attack and a downward stab attack in midair. He can also fly with his wings, but he can't float, so you actually do have to tap A to fly instead of holding A, so it's a bit more tricky. There also is a speedrun timer in the bottom right, so this mode is timed similar to the boss endurance mode. And yeah, it's pretty fun as kind of a speedrunning mode. It's very challenging for a few different reasons though. Even though Meta Knight is more versatile than Kirby, there are a few other changes that make this a little bit more intimidating, which we'll see a little bit later. You definitely want to pick up extra lives and healing items whenever you can, because this mode is honestly no joke. Alright, so that's it for stage 1. One of the biggest differences in Meta Nightmare is we don't get any goal games or any sub-games. So basically, it's a lot tougher to get extra lives. Alright, so let's move on to stage 2. Meta Knight does have another change to help make certain areas a little bit easier. Meta Knight's sword can basically interact with any different puzzle item, including fuses and also the posts that you need hammer or stone for. So Meta Knight can actually find all the switches. Instead of using a warp star, he simply flies through, which is pretty cool, even though there's not like any frames of animation to that. Alright, good start to this mini-boss. I have 1 hit point left, and I need to be careful because I can't really easily get extra lives. That's probably one of the worst parts about this, is not getting extra lives. Also, he does have a dash attack here. The mode basically plays out a lot like Extra Mode, but it is a little bit different. Oh, that was close. I thought I almost ran into the Poppy Bro enemy there. There isn't a fight with Nightmare, and this mode ends at the fight with King Dedede, so it is a little bit shorter than the main mode. So yeah, for the most part, this is basically just Extra Mode, again, with a few minor changes. So we're not going to go through this entire mode. There is an additional clear screen for clearing Meta Nightmare, but again, like with Boss Endurance, this is basically kind of a reward for going through Extra Mode, like how Boss Endurance is a reward for going through the main mode, and thus there isn't a separate unlock by clearing this mode. It is nice as an additional challenge, and honestly, while Extra Mode is basically just Kirby's main mode again, it is nice to have this other mode where we actually do have a different character entirely with his own moveset and unique challenges with not being able to easily get extra lives. So yeah, this is a pretty cool reward. I'm not sure if I can fully recommend going through this mode again, since you have to go through Extra Mode to unlock this, but if you do want an extra challenge, it is definitely very challenging and very interesting. And with that, that's basically everything I wanted to show in Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. One more detail I forgot to mention earlier is there's a secret with the level names. All of the level names spell out the letters of the rainbow. So for example, you have Vegetable Valley for Violet, Ice Cream Island, Butter Building, etc. So it's basically the acronym ROIGI-BIV backwards, which is a cool Easter egg. This is kind of a theme in Kirby games, to basically spell something out with all the level names, so it's cool to see that trend started so early on. But with that being said, yeah, I think that's about it for this playthrough. I hope you enjoyed this adventure, and next time we'll start something else. So thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for something different.